Grab your cup of coffee. Sit down for a story. Let's all go exploring. Making it after 40. Making it after 40. Making it after 40.
Hello, friends. Thank you for joining me for this week's episode of Making It After 40. I am your host, Lisa Rodriguez. I am an actor and writer who is still trying to make it after the age of 40. On this show, we explore what it means to be an artist trying to make it as a middle-aged person. On the show this week, we have Martin Garcia. Martin is an actor, improviser, and writer based out of Los Angeles by way of the comedy scene in Chicago. Martin regularly books all kinds of roles on TV and in films, such as Mr. Mayor, Lopez, 911, and Ingrid Goes West, and those are just a handful of his recent bookings. Martin shares with us how his upbringing impacted what he thought he was supposed to do in life, and that, in turn, resulted in him starting his acting journey a little later in life compared to most. We get into benefits of being a middle-aged person in improv and how we should really all just be taking more chances and following our heart's desire. Martin is kind and funny and no nonsense. I'm sure you'll appreciate what he has to say and his perspective. Thank you for joining us, and I hope you will enjoy the show. Starting a podcast felt overwhelming and scary, from putting myself out there in a vulnerable way, to wondering if people would even want to be a guest, and questioning if my idea was good enough. Once I overcame those fears, the easiest part has been getting my podcast out into the world, and that is thanks to Buzzsprout. Buzzsprout is hands down the easiest and best way to launch, promote, and track your podcast. Your show can be online and listed in all the major podcast directories like Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google Podcasts, and more within minutes of finishing your recording. I researched a lot of podcast hosting sites, but Buzzsprout is the one that I kept coming back to. You'll get a great-looking podcast website, audio players that you can drop into other websites, detailed analytics to see how people are listening, tools to promote your episodes, and more. If you're considering starting your own podcast, don't wait any longer. It's so much fun. To be honest, I only wish I had started it sooner. Following the link in the show notes lets Buzzsprout know we sent you. Gets you a $20 Amazon gift card if you sign up for a paid plan, and helps support our show. So what are you waiting for? Go start your podcast now. Hi, Martin.
Hi, Lisa. How are you?
I'm good. Thank you so much for coming on the show.
Thanks for having me.
I met Martin at Second City. He was one of my teachers. There might be a theme here on this podcast because I had Celeste on 2 episodes before you. Yeah.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah, that was
nice.
a fun conversation. That was a great experience. I kind of credit that with really kind of lighting the fire into my butt and giving acting my full attention again. So, yeah, the whole Second City experience, I really kind of found my home there.
It's nice that we were able to set your
Yeah. So I usually like to start off and have the guests kind of tell us a little bit about who you are and your journey into acting and to be where you're at now.
Oh boy!
Go back in the annals and.
I was 8 years old. No, I'm kind of joking, but I'm not. I knew I wanted to be a performer since I was 8. I just didn't know what that looked like or how to do that or anything like that. And I spent a lot of time in my youth wasting my time sort of doing what I thought I was supposed to do as opposed to what I wanted to do.
Yeah, I can relate.
Mostly because I didn't know that I could do what I wanted to do and also because I didn't know how to do what I wanted to do. Like I grew up in the Army.
Okay.
So my first 14 years of my life, my dad was in the Army. So we moved around every 3 years for the most part. And there was no drama department in, my junior high, which is what we called it back then. It's now
Yeah.
middle school. There just wasn't like a lot of theater. There wasn't a lot of anything really. You just went to school, and except for sports, of course, sports is always there. Not that I have any resentment about that, but anyway, so it took me a long time to get to a place where I even knew where any of this stuff was around, So we retired in Austin when I was 14, and a friend of mine in high school decided to go to audition for a play, and he got a part in the play. Like, this is so sad. I went to every fucking rehearsal.
And you weren't in the play?
I went to his rehearsals, and I was not in the play. Yeah. I just loved being around that, and and it took me even longer after that to figure out. I didn't try out for anything in high school. I didn't do anything in college. Towards the end of my college career, I started taking an acting class, largely because of another friend of mine who wanted to be a director, and we had a conversation about. I used to work at a video store.
Yeah.
Remember the video rental store?
I worked at one of those.
And I worked at National Video. Which one did you work at?
Blockbuster.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay. That's the one that beat everybody up.
Yeah. We were the big guys.
Because I'm talking about 1983.
Okay.
So I was 18 years old, a store, and with my friend Robert, and Robert was like 4 or 5 years older than I. And we had this conversation one day, and he was like, what do you want to be? And I was like, I don't know. And he said, well, I want to be a director. He went on this whole thing about being a director in films and blah, 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 blah. And that was the first person I met that was like, this is what I'm going to be.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, well, for being honest, I want to be an actor.
Yeah.
And he goes, cool. Blah, blah, blah. So we got in this whole conversation about that. And then after that, I was like, oh, I said I wanted to be an actor. So I'm going to go take acting classes. So I got into acting classes. And then through that, a friend that I met in acting class was like, you're really funny. You should do this thing I'm doing called comedy sports.
Oh, okay.
And I was like, okay, I'll audition for it. So I auditioned for this thing called comedy sports. There were 3 people who were auditioned. And I found out later that because there was 3 auditors.
Okay.
And 3 auditioners.
Okay.
So 2 of the auditors did not want me.
Oh.
But they wanted the other 2 people. No, they wanted one other person. And so the 3rd auditor wanted me. And so he said, well, I will give you this person if you give me that person.
Yeah.
So that's how I got in. I found out later. And did my first show, my first improv show, poolside, outdoor poolside at a Holiday Inn. There were 2 old people in lounge chairs, not watching the show, being annoyed that there was a show.
Yeah.
This hotel was at the intersection of 2 busy highways in Austin, Texas.
Okay.
So it was 290 and I-35. So it was loud.
Yeah.
We had microphones next to a pool. And it was the worst experience of my life. It was awful. It was an awful show. There was a huge argument after the show between the leaders of the group. And I was like, I'm not doing this ever again. I'm not going to do this. This is awful. But I stuck with it, and then eventually, became one of the better players. And then a couple of my friends that were also some of the better players. We went to a tournament in Kansas City. Comedy sports, you have tournaments. So we went to a tournament in Kansas City, and we had to fight to do that. It's actually my friend Deborah is the one that was like very adamant about it. And so we went and we basically won. Kansas City won, but that's because it was in Kansas City. We came in second. So we won. So anyway, so then we went to Chicago because my friend Deborah was going to move to Chicago. And so we drove up there, and I walked out on the street of Chicago because we got there really late at night. We went to sleep, got up in the morning, went out to Michigan Avenue. A huge cold front had come through. It was so cold. And we went out onto Michigan Avenue, and I had the only times this ever happened to me. I just had an epiphany. I was just like, I'm supposed to be here.
Oh.
I've never felt that way in my life. I was just like, I went outside and I was like, this is where I'm supposed to be.
Oh my gosh. That's so cool.
Yeah, I keep waiting for that feeling again. Oh, it was so great. It's like such clarity, man. It was such clarity.
Yeah.
Yeah, and so Deb, myself, and my friend Daryl and my friend Kirkland, our friends, we all moved up together to Chicago with the goal of being at Second City. I started classes at Second City in August of '94.
Okay.
I finished my last student show Halloween of '95, and then I got hired November 5th, I believe, of '95.
That's awesome.
So like a week after my last show.
Wow.
And then I toured for 2.5 years. Then I got moved up to the ETC, did 3 shows there. Then I got moved up to the main stage, did 3 shows there. So that takes us through Second City. I don't know if you want to go further.
Yeah, no. Well, that's a great start. I remember in our classes, you were part of the curriculum, basically, because you'd show us some of your old shows. In the shows that you were in, were part of the curriculum.
I forced myself into the curriculum.
That's really neat. And then, so you stayed out there. At what point did you decide to make the jump to LA? And at what point, you said that you knew that when you were in Chicago, that that's where you needed to be. But I assume that you had, whatever side jobs or whatever. At what point did you realize that this was your career path and that you wanted to be a full-time professional actor?
Well, I mean, in Chicago, I was a full-time professional actor. That was like literally the first time I ever knew that you could do that.
Yeah, once you get on the main stage, you're paid, right?
Yeah, I mean, it's not like, you're buying mansions or anything of the sort, even close. But you are a paid actor. I had, when I first moved to Chicago, I had a job, and I should mention this. When I moved to Chicago, I was 3 months shy of my 29th birthday. Okay. So by the time I got hired at Second City, I was already 30.
Yeah.
Which is old for being first, your first time. So I had a late start from the get-go. But I think if I had done something at 18, 19, 20, I just don't think I would have been able to handle it.
Yeah.
So I was already up there and, at least 5 years older than most of my contemporaries. And I initially worked at the Gap, the flagship store on Michigan Avenue. Mm-hmm. And I worked there for 3 months and I hated it. Yeah. I hated it. It was awful. I hated it. So I quit and then I went to a temp agency because I had worked at the IRS for 9.5 years in Austin.
Oh my gosh.
Before I moved to Chicago. And I worked there through college and after college.
Yeah.
And they gave me my first assignment, which was at the Sears Tower on the 22nd floor and at a law firm. And it was a 2-week gig. And after the 2 weeks, my supervisor, Therese Califf, she's awesome. She had a meeting with me and she said, well, we want to offer you the job. And again, one of these clarity moments came up and I was like, okay, that's nice. I just want to let you know that the only reason I'm here in Chicago is to be on the Second City stage. So that's my priority. So if that could happen in 6 months, it could happen in 3 years. I don't know. But when it happens, I'm probably going to leave.
Yeah.
And then later on, she told me, after I left and we had met up and she goes, when you said that, I was so disappointed because I was like, oh man, I really wanted to hire this guy. And now, now it seems like he's not a good candidate. So she waited a little while and then she eventually decided to say, yeah, come work for me. Yeah. And I ended up working there for 3 years.
Nice.
But I also worked there after I got hired. Therese was great. Because when I got hired, I was like, well, Therese, I got hired. And she goes, oh, okay, well, how do you want to do this? And I was like, well, I want to, I don't know. Actually, I asked her, how do you want to handle this? And she goes, well, let's use your vacation time and your sick time anytime you have to leave. And then, when that runs out, we'll have to probably let you go. But, that'll give you time. So eventually I had to go because I was touring. And so I was supposed to go to this tour on the East Coast, and she's like, well, I have to let you go because we don't have any more time. So I went and did the tour. And I came back to Chicago and this is when we had answering machines. Yeah. Yeah. So I checked the answering machine and, she had left a few messages saying, please come back. We'll work something out. So then I contracted out for a while.
Oh, that's nice.
But I mentioned that story mostly because I think the hard part of taking these leaps is that you think that nobody's going to be there for you, but that people show up.
Yeah.
Therese didn't have to do that. She went out of her way to, I mean, I guess, that's also a comment on me.
Yeah. That's a comment on you and your abilities and how nice you are and people like you.
But people show up and they try to help you,
Yeah. But I think if you have the right people, they'll support you and they want to support your dreams and they'll figure out a way to make it work.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And then, once Second City was done, which I left stage in 2003, September of 2003, I hung around Chicago for like a year.
Okay.
But at that point I was kind of like, I mean, it was very depressing. I didn't want, I mean, I knew I had to leave, but I didn't really want to leave. Like I would have stayed at Second City till I died, but that's not going to happen.
Yeah.
So then after a year and after a winter in Chicago, not having a job at Second City, I decided, I don't want to do this anymore. I don't want to have these winters. So a job came up in Las Vegas with Second City. And so I went to Second City, Las Vegas in October 2004 and was there till January 2006. Then I went on a ship for Second City. My father passed in March of 2007. And then and a week later, I had to go on another ship.
Oh, my gosh.
That was healthy.
Yeah.
So I went and did that. I went and did that ship. And then the August of 2007, I made my first foray into living in Los Angeles.
Okay.
And I picked Los Angeles because Los Angeles was TV and film, and that's what I wanted to do. So that's why I came to Los Angeles.
That must have been an experience, though, being on those ships as like the senior person, because at that point, they would have seen you as like grandpa, even though you're like in your 30s or whatever.
I was in my 40s. By then.
Yeah.
I was 40. Yeah. I was 42.
Well, I just aged you down. Yeah. So yeah, you would have been in your 40s. I'm sure. Like, I don't know. Even when I was doing Second City, at that point, I was still in my late 30s, but I felt like such an old lady with all these youngsters.
But don't you think that is actually, in a weird way, a blessing?
I absolutely do. Well, like you just said it earlier, is that I wouldn't have been able to do it when I was in my early 20s. I was really naive. I was really insecure. And I needed
And I was really naive and insecure for a very long time.
Yeah, me too. I got married at 25, but in the separation and divorce process, I did a lot of growing up and I did a lot of therapy. And that's kind of when I jumped back into acting because I kept dabbling in it. In my 20s, I would get an agent for a little bit, do a little bit of training, but I didn't give it my full force and I didn't appreciate that it was a business. I didn't appreciate how much energy I needed to put into it in order to get results. And I took some classes at IO West. For me, IO West didn't feel like my home. I learned a lot and the teachers were great, but it was just a different vibe. So as like a more grounded person, when I went back into doing improv in my late 30s, I really appreciated Second City, and it did. Like Jay Suko was my first teacher, and he was just very warm and inviting, and I really found my people right off the bat, and I pretty much came up with the same group the whole way through up to grad review.
Yeah, see, I think that's an important thing too. Is like if you kind of have to I think when you find your place and your people. It's like that thing of like I was taking Second City classes. This is 94 into 95. And during that time, IO was the big thing. Like everybody that got hired on stage at Second City was from IO.
Okay.
And so I was like, well, I guess I need to go to IO. So I signed up for a class and it was the first level and it was Sharna teaching it. And it didn't click for me. I was just like, I don't like this energy. I don't like, because I had a great group at Second City.
Yeah.
Like I went, my group was five women, 5 men. We had so much fun together.
Yeah.
And I think that's what it is. It's like, I felt like I could fail there without consequence.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Whereas at IO, I felt like I was constantly worried about failing.
Yeah.
Like I was worried about failing as opposed to feeling invited to fail. You know, because you have to fail. It's like when you're exercising. I had a trainer for a while, and you know, one day he's like, I was doing push-ups, and he's like, "You can do one more. You can do one more. But you can do one more." And then like I failed, and he goes, "Good. That's what you're looking for. You have to get to failure.
Yeah.
Otherwise, you're not going to get any stronger."
Yeah.
Right. And that really hit, and that happened like in 2015, you know, but I think we need to constantly be reminded of that. You know, it's like you have to fail by doing something, not fail by not doing something.
Yeah.
That's a completely different thing. You have to fail at doing something in order to get better at doing that thing.
Yeah.
And I hate failing. I really hate it.
Me too.
I don't enjoy it. But if I can find a group of people or a system that kind of works failure into the formula
mm-hmm.
and makes failure not a bad thing,
mm-hmm.
but more of an opportunity, then I feel better about it. That's why I felt more comfortable at Second City with my group. Because if something didn't work, we'd laugh about it as opposed to, "Oh, why'd you do that?" You know,
right.
Like, I would always feel like at IO, it was like, "Why'd you do that? Like, why would you do that? That's not the right move."
Yeah.
Well, first of all, what are you talking about the right move? This is improv. Like, what do you mean the right move?
Yeah.
You know, yeah.
Yeah. I've had that same similar experience where it felt like you were being judged all the time instead of being supported.
Yeah.
And I think you're right. You have to have that opportunity to fail because there's so much, sometimes the genius is in the failure, you know, or sometimes you have to try out that idea and it doesn't work, but it leads you to the next idea is what I mean. Yeah,
absolutely. And, you know, and the thing about improv, like the philosophy that I learned and fell for is when it's an ensemble. Mm-hmm. You can always tell when people are playing together and when people are just trying to get their laugh, their thing out, you know?
Yeah.
And I always have more fun watching people who enjoy playing together, who like get off on each other's energy and laugh and like you can tell they're having a good time. I'm not as interested in, aren't we clever? I don't care how clever you are.
Yeah.
It bores me. You know, I get it, you know.
Yeah. Some of the best improv is just, I don't know. I'm trying to think of some of the shows I saw at Second City where it would just be some improvisers who've known each other forever and they would just tell a story. And you're right, there was no jokes. They were just literally telling a story as it unfolded and came to them. And it wasn't, sure there were funny moments, but most of it wasn't funny. It was just interesting and it's so exciting to watch. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I think a lot of that comes with a maturity.
Yeah. Well, and a certain amount, I don't want to say comfort because comfort can have a negative connotation, but I would say that it's a comfort in knowing that you can try things and people aren't going to make you wrong about it.
Right. Yeah. Or if it fails, like you said, you can laugh about it and move on.
Right. If it's a train wreck, let's wreck more of the train.
Yeah.
You know, let's really wreck this train up.
Yeah.
You know.
So in terms of your family, was your family supportive of your career choices the whole way through, or were they always worried, like, what is Martin doing? Are we going to be like, is he going to be living at home until he's 50? That was pretty much
my whole MO, I think, growing up is, what is Martin doing? I don't think that, I honestly think, I'm the youngest by 10 and a half years. And, you know, and perhaps this is because I am the age that I am and I've done a lot of, you know, therapy and I've looked back at my past and, you know, kind of thought about things. I feel definitely this is the way my dad felt. I feel like my dad felt like, oh my gosh, look at this creature. I love this creature. What the fuck is it? I don't understand what this thing is. I love it, but it's not doing what I think it should be doing.
Yeah.
And I feel like I'm supposed to make it do something because that's what's worked before. and it's not doing it. So what is this thing? You know?
Yeah.
I'm Puerto Rican, and my parents were born in Puerto Rico. And
Okay.
English was not their first language.
Yeah.
By the time I came along, all of that assimilation had kind of taken place.
Mm-hmm.
You know, so I came into the world very much in an American-esque family.
Yeah.
You know?
Mm-hmm.
Before that, my brothers and my sister, I think, you know, they had to deal with people making fun of the fact they couldn't speak English.
Yeah.
You know, stuff like that, which they all speak English very well. We all do. We all sound like this. Except for my parents. But anyways, so I think that for them, I was always kind of this, not something, it was a bizarre thing, but it was a bizarre thing that was intriguing, not a bizarre thing that was, get it away from me, you know? And so I think, and also my parents were both wannabe artists.
Oh.
They wanted to be more, I think, singers.
Okay.
Musical performers, and they never had that opportunity. They were both born during the Depression. They didn't have those opportunities in Puerto Rico to become, you know, famous or even to make a living doing that.
Yeah.
So my dad joined the Army when he was 19, I think. By the time my dad was 22 and my mom was 18, they had 3 children.
Yeah.
So it was a completely different thing. So for me, when I came along, sports was the thing. You know, my brothers, why don't you play sports like your brothers? Why don't you play basketball like your brothers? Why don't you... And it's like, you know, and I'm physically talented. I could have done those things, but I didn't want to.
Yeah, it didn't interest you.
And it constantly, and I constantly felt like I was having to battle my own family to build my own identity, you know? Yeah. And like when I started doing comedy, my dad never came to any of my shows or anything like that. Oh. Because I don't think he really understood it, and I don't think he approved of it. Yeah. Honestly. Yeah. If I'm being honest. My mom, again, I don't think she understood what I was doing, but she would come to I was in a dance company also. So she would come to my dance shows and she would come to some of the comedy sports shows and stuff like that. Comedy Sports Austin, we used to do these, Access Television. Yeah. Mm-hmm. We had Access Television show on Austin Access. Nice. And, that we would do every Friday or Saturday night. I can't remember. And, you know, a lot of the stuff was terrible. Yeah. But it was so much fun. We were just having fun. You know, we would write sketches and stuff like that. That was when I first started writing sketches. Yeah. Apparently one night when everybody was at home, they were watching the sketch show, the show, and my dad was laughing a lot. I had to hear from other people. Right. He would never tell you. He won't tell you that. He would never tell me that. Yeah. So I would have to say they didn't understand. And I don't know that when I moved to Chicago, my parents were so upset. Oh. I'm not upset that I was moving to Chicago necessarily. They were just mad I was moving out. Oh. I was almost 29 years old. So I lived with my parents from the day I was born, basically until I was almost 29 years old. Oh my gosh. And they were beside themselves. They didn't want me to leave at all. Yeah. That was just that was a weird kind of relationship we had. It's very codependent. Yeah, you were their little baby and they expected you to live there forever. Yeah, what are they going to do now that the kid's gone, you know? And I was kind of the buffer between the two of them. They didn't always get along. And then I think that they didn't know what they were going to do without someone in the house, you know? Yeah. And I think that my mom kind of excelled. Like she kind of took off. She had a lot of stuff going on. Yeah. I mean, she had stuff going on before I left, but she was fine. My dad's the one that had issues, not just because I left, but when he retired from the Army, it really destroyed him. He didn't have what made him important anymore. Yeah. Yeah. If that makes any sense. That makes sense. And he really suffered. He like the last 25 years of my dad's life, I feel like he suffered. He just didn't. He never really made that leap to find something else he was passionate about. Yeah. You know? Yeah. The Army was his life. Yeah. So I don't think that they really understood what I was doing. And I'll give you this as an example. Okay. So when I got hired at Second City, I called my mom and I called home. I was like, Mom, guess what? I got hired at Second City. that place that I moved here to get hired by, I'm now in the company. And she goes, oh my gosh, that's so wonderful. What is that? And I was like, oh, okay, well, it's an improv film,
Yeah.
So but they didn't really know, like the whole concept of theater and things of that nature was completely foreign to them. They didn't, it just didn't resonate with them. They had no, they didn't grow up with going to theater or seeing theater or, if anything, they grew up watching television and movies.
Yeah.
And even that seemed impossible because how many Puerto Ricans did you see on movie screens except for Rita Moreno?
Yeah.
Yeah. And that's basically it. Freddie Prinze. Not Junior.
Yeah.
I'm old, so it's the original Freddie Prinze.
Well, I mean, yeah. And then just in terms of Latinos in general, I mean, you had Ricky Ricardo, but that, that was, there you go. That was it.
Yeah. And it was very consistent in the way it was depicted as Latinos are, funny accent or they work for you.
Yeah. Yeah.
Those are the things that you get. It's either urban work for you or funny accent person.
Yeah. Yeah. I think it's really neat. I was looking at your website and it says that you were the first openly LGBTQ person and first Puerto Rican person with the ETC, which is...
It's actually the main stage.
Yeah, on the main... Yeah, and you're the first person in your family to kind of do this. And then you, break the glass ceiling at Second City as well. That's really cool. It's a big deal.
Yeah, it's funny. I never really... I didn't think about that until after I was gone, I think.
Yeah.
Because it's an interesting thing, the whole being... Well, being gay and being Puerto Rican they're both very interesting in their own ways, is in that I never really, we were always proud of being Puerto Rican. I'm still proud of being Puerto Rican, but I didn't really think of it as a difference.
Yeah.
Until I moved to Texas.
Yeah. Until
we were in Austin. And that's when I started noticing little things, because I'm pretty light skinned, It's not a color thing for me.
Yeah.
As it is for some other Puerto Ricans. And I speak the way I speak, so people don't associate the way I speak with being Puerto Rican.
Yeah.
So I would just get little weird things, like I had all of these things are going to show up in a one-man show at some point. But, we were having a discussion when I was in high school in the cafeteria, and people were talking about their ethnic backgrounds, and someone asked me, and I was like, oh, I'm Puerto Rican. And this white chick said, she goes, oh, really? I just thought you were a funny looking white boy. Which of course I laughed at the time because I'm, 15 years old.
Yeah.
Don't cause any problems.
Yeah.
Nowadays I would say, fuck you, bitch.
Yeah. Yeah.
But anyway, I hope this is not a PG-13 show.
No, it's fine. It's fine. Yeah.
And then people I literally had people, I was talking to a friend of mine, and another friend of his was with us, and I was talking, and I just finished my sentence, and his friend goes, oh my God, your nostrils are so big.
Oh my God.
Yeah. It was just little things like that.
Yeah.
Would come up.
Yeah.
Where people would just slightly point out something that was not right about me according to what it was to be, I guess, normal, i.e. white.
Right. Mm-hmm.
And that's the first inklings of it. And then when I moved to Chicago, everything was about what you were.
Yeah.
It just became this thing of you're black. Oh, you're this. Oh, you're that.
Mm-hmm.
It became part of who you were more so, which is not necessarily a bad thing, but it's not necessarily a great thing either.
Right.
It depends on how it's couched and how you deal with it. But yeah, so it was kind of interesting afterward. And the whole thing with being gay, once I came out, my mindset after dealing with basically a 2-year process of people being disappointed and having to cut people off because they're disappointed and blah, blah, blah.
Uh-huh.
It was I am leading with gay.
Yeah.
Because I do not want people in my life where, they're like, oh my gosh, you're so great. And then you tell them you're gay. And then it's oh, I want that up front.
Yeah.
You know, if you have a problem with me being gay, I'm gay now, meeting you.
Yeah.
If you got a problem with it, go away, because I don't want to deal with you. I want to deal with people who are okay with that.
Do you find that you still deal with that now in the, like, specifically in the industry? I know for a long time that was a thing. I would just wonder if, in your experience nowadays, do you still feel like you kind of have to establish that relationship when you're going in for an audition or for whatever?
It is interesting. I feel like there's a number of different... Well, I think the auditioning process is such a weird construct.
Yeah.
I understand it's necessary, but it's a weird construct in that nowadays it's, like I said, I'm Puerto Rican, but I'm light skinned. So therefore, a lot of times people don't read me as Puerto Rican. So therefore, I am not Puerto Rican.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. I can very much relate to that.
And so it becomes this weird thing of like, now I'm being judged negatively because I'm not a specific skin tone.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
I don't speak in a specific way. And everything nowadays is like, we need someone who is that, as opposed to an actor who can be that.
Yeah.
So it becomes, the same thing with being gay, It's like if people know that I'm gay, they'll bring me in for gay parts. But then it's always like, you're not gay the way we need you to be gay.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. So that's, to me, problematic. And I understand it, but it's still effed up.
I kind of have an experience just on like the ethnicity stuff. My mom is white. My dad is Mexican Native American. And because I use my maiden name for acting, I think people don't know what to do with me. They want me to speak Spanish fluently, and I don't because I'm third generation. And so I speak some Spanish, but in my opinion, it's not enough to do commercials. But then I could go out for the white lady, but then it's like, but there's a little something that's not white about her. But then I go out for the Latina roles. They want me to be fully speaking Spanish. They want like what their image is of an immigrant. And I'm not that. Mm-hmm. And so I feel like I don't know that people always know what to do with me. I think that's one of my challenges. Well,
but that's the problem though, is like, it is this thing of like what to do with you. It becomes this identity of, why aren't you fitting into the things I need you to fit into so that I can, do something with you. And here's the thing. I also want to put this out there. Okay. I'm not coming at this for like someone who's never booked a job. I've booked jobs. It's not about that.
You book a lot. You book a lot.
It's just, well, thanks.
Yeah. I looked at your IMDb.
It very often doesn't feel that way, but
yeah.
I've been very fortunate. I just want to be more fortunate.
Yeah.
So I book, but it is this weird thing of once you put gay or Latino on top of as a requirement, I'm not going to fulfill whatever picture the people asking for that want filled.
Yeah.
Also, I'm 100% Puerto Rican. My mom is very light. My dad was darker. Mm-hmm. And we pretty much all took after my mom's side of the family.
Yeah.
Like my sister and one of my brothers have green eyes. Mm-hmm. I had blonde hair when I was young. My sister had blonde hair when she was young. So and we have a lot of European, Spanish, Portuguese, and a smattering of other European stuff. And then we have African, and then we have Native people in our blood. The largest percentage of blood that I have is European. So so that's a whole other thing. It's like I'm an amalgamation of imperialism and torture and slavery. I'm an amalgamation of all of that.
Yeah. Yeah.
So and it's like, so I personally don't want those type of limitations.
Yep.
to say we need a Latino and they have to look like this, or they have to have an accent, or blah, 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 whatever the hell it is, or I need a gay person, but I need him to be a gay person,
Right.
like that, all of that, while helpful as far as describing a character, is not particularly helpful in, it doesn't help me as a performer.
Yeah.
Give you something. I want to be able to give, and it's really hard. I'm in an acting class now at Martin Garcia BGB Studios.
Mm-hmm.
And and the whole thing is like, bring yourself. But like so much of my life, even in my like real life as a child, was hiding myself.
Yeah.
Hiding gay. Hiding difference.
Yeah.
Hiding Puerto Rican. Hiding difference, And I don't know that I hid Puerto Rican as much as I hid gay, for sure. But, and then you go on these auditions and you're trying to fulfill someone else's need. And the whole thing, and I've also taken classes at John Roosevelt Studios, and they're both kind of in the same boat of like, you got to bring yourself to stop trying to fulfill what you think someone wants and bring yourself. But but when ethnicity or sexual orientation, that when those things are on the paper, what is it that they're talking about? Like, they're telling me a character is gay is just telling me who they love. It's not telling me how they behave.
Yeah.
See, but I think that they want it to be how you behave.
Mm-hmm.
And I understand that, like, sometimes you need that.
Yeah.
Like, I'm a writer. I understand that, sometimes, if I'm writing a character based on someone I know, and that person happens to be, a little more on the flamboyant side, then I'm probably going to put flamboyant in the description of the person that I am writing.
Yeah.
So that makes sense. But I also think, I just think that you need to be specific about the behavior and not specific about, oh, they're gay. So that takes care of flamboyant.
And that's why, yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, I know exactly what you mean. I agree. I wish a lot more casting would be about just the person, who they are, and their ethnicity, their gender identity, their gender, their sexual orientation isn't so much a component, because I don't know. For me, it's very frustrating when they just like, this person has to be white or this person has to be Latino. It's really nice when it's just like, it's just a person, and these are their personality traits.
Yeah, I mean, the only reason that you would probably do it, need to do it for gay or trans or anything like that is because those people don't get a lot of opportunities.
Well, yeah,
we people don't get a lot of opportunities that way to be that.
Yeah,
but and also, if you want someone to know that it is going to be expected of you that you are going to be in a relationship that is different than the heteronormative.
Yeah, and a lot of times that is important to the story, and that's where it does matter.
Yeah,
but I think
go ahead. Sorry.
Oh, I was gonna say we you're absolutely right. We do need more stories that incorporate the queer community and trans folks, but the like one-off characters where you never know their sexuality doesn't come into play.
Yeah, like
why be specific about that?
Yeah. Like if you have a one-line co-star part and like, I need gay. Like what?
Yeah.
Do you? Or are you just Yeah,
definitely. Okay. So I went through your website and I went through IMDb, and dude, your reels are so good. I watched both your reels.
Thanks.
Yeah. As I'm watching stuff lately, I see you pop up from time to time in shows that I've been watching, like, oh, there's Martin. But, you said you moved out here in 2007. I wonder, you were already in your 40s at that point. It seems like your career has really kind of, now you said you want more work, but it seems like your career is going pretty good. I mean, you seem to be booking fairly regularly.
You would never know it from me.
Maybe that's just me.
I will never tell you that.
Maybe that's just because I'm still working on my credits. So in my mind, I'm like, ooh, Martin's booked a lot of good stuff. I don't know. It seems like you've had a lot of really good projects, and in recent years, especially, it seems like you've booked a lot. Do you think? My question for you is: do you think that you have been aging into like your casting? Do you think as you become older, your casting, you're more desirable to casting? They know where to put you.
Well, you know what's a funny thing? First of all, about moving to Los Angeles for me was I kept leaving.
Oh.
I kept leaving Los Angeles. I moved here in August of 2007. And I lived here all through 2007 and into 2008. And then the summer of 2008, they offered me another ship.
Okay.
And at this time, I was working at a retail store and hating it. And I mean, I'm grateful for the job, but it was just wasn't what I was here to do and not what I wanted to do, right? But so I took the gig. And it took me away the rest of 2008. Okay. So then 2009, I moved back because I let go of my apartment. Right. So I moved back in 2009 and was here all of 2009. And then 2010, they offered me a gig in the spring of 2010. And I was like, I'm out. I was working at the same store.
Yeah. Yeah.
God bless them. They kept taking me back. And so I went and I did like a 2.5, 3 month thing in Arizona. And then after that, they offered me another ship. So I went to do the ship. So by then, this is the summer of 2010. And like the contract with these ships had changed. And I just felt like they had sold us out. Second City had sold us out. I felt like we used to have passenger cabins and we lost the passenger cabins. So we had to stay in the crew cabins.
Oh.
And I kid you not, my cabin was 10 feet long and about 6 feet wide.
Oh, wow.
And that's where I'm supposed to live.
Oh my gosh.
The next 4 months. And I was so livid because everybody else on the ship that was in entertainment had officers' cabins, including their tech people.
Oh my gosh.
And Second City had not protected us the way that those people had protected their people. So I was done. So I left in the middle of my contract. But I was in this space of like, what am I doing with my life? I don't know where I'm going. I don't know what to do. And I was having like a crisis.
Yeah.
So I decided I was just going to go back home to Austin and I was going to try and not be an actor. So I moved back to Austin and I was miserable for 6 months and, tried to get some things going there in Austin. They just were not happening. And doing the artist's way, I did the artist's way while I was there.
Mm-hmm. I love that book. I've done that and that. Yeah. That's a great way to get things going. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And I just came to the conclusion that it wasn't the location that was the problem. It was me.
Yeah.
I wasn't satisfied with me. I wasn't satisfied with what I was doing or who I was, all that stuff. So it's not the location. So I decided to move back to LA. And I was like, it doesn't matter where you are. Be miserable in LA. At least there you might have a chance to get work.
Yeah.
To do what you want to do. And I moved back to LA in January 2011 and found this apartment that I'm in still. I've been here for 11 years. I love my apartment.
Yeah.
And things just started to click. By 2012, I had a manager and I booked my first, I had 3 auditions in December of 2012 and I booked one. And that was my first TV credit that I earned here in Los Angeles.
Okay.
And then after that, the next year I booked 2 or 3 other things. Like it just started to click. And the real thing I want to get through to people again is this thing of like, if you show up, people will show up. And I did not think about that when I lived in Los Angeles in 2007, 2009. Those times. I thought that I was just a number and nobody would care if I was there or not. But the thing about it is you have to plant you have to plant, you have to say, I am not leaving for more than a month ever. Because I'm committed to this city and I'm committed to doing this thing. And once I did that, I realized that casting directors remember you.
Yeah.
If they like you, they remember you. And that was the real epiphany for me. Because I thought, oh, they don't care about me. I'm just like another actor, you know? But people would be like, oh, hi, Martin. How are you? I'm like, and in my brain, I'm trying not to show it, you know, but in my brain, I'm like, well, you remember my name?
Yeah.
You know? I mean, it made sense in Chicago because it was such a small, you know, commercials and stuff. It was such a small part of my auditioning experience. But here in Los Angeles, I thought nobody's going to know me or remember me because there's like millions of us. And so that was a big lesson for me. Is like you have to build recognition, you know, and build relationships and be around.
Yeah.
So people can say, oh, he's not right for this. Oh, but I have this guy that I saw for this, but he's not right. He wasn't right for that, but I think he might be good for this. You know? Or just, you know, or little things like that. Or just like that they call you in because I have not booked a commercial. I've been auditioning for commercials since 1996. I booked one commercial and it was on the internet and nobody saw it. Okay. So, you know, the commercials for me are like a huge, like, okay. But anyways, there's this one casting agency that always calls me in, and he's the dude that runs the auditions is always so nice to me. He's always like Martin, I always know when I call you in that I'm going to get a good performance, and I haven't booked with them. Yeah, but he's called me in like multiple times. Yeah, and that feels good. You know, even if I don't book it, I feel like, oh, this guy gets that I'm good. Yeah. And maybe it's not translating to the director or whoever, but this guy gets guy gets me. This one guy gets me.
And all it takes is one guy to get you. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Even during the pandemic, you know, it's like I booked 2019 was a great year for me. I had a lot of great stuff 2019. Yeah. It was so much fun. And then 2020 happened. And I actually had, in early 2020, I had auditioned for a part, and then we went all summer. And then in August, I found out that I had booked a part that I had auditioned for in March. Oh my gosh. Which was for the reboot of Saved by the Bell. And so I'm on the pilot episode of the reboot of Saved by the Bell. And that was the only thing that I booked in 2020, which is more, you know, again, which is a blessing. It's something. Yeah. And then 2021, I didn't book anything until the end of the year. And it was recurring on Mr. Mayor. Yeah. So, and I had a really great scene with Ted Danson. It was so great. It was that so much fun. So cool. The vibe on that set was really great. And I felt like I had a say, like I could offer things, and we actually discussed like some things, like what if you did this? What if you did this? I picked up a pen at one point and like stole it from Ted Danson, and so he's like, I like that pen thing. Keep the pen thing, you know, even though it didn't show up in the show, but he liked that I did. Like there was this thing of like, you know, that almost that feeling of like when you're doing a Second City show, it's like, oh, what if this? What if that? What if that? You know, and that's always a wonderful feeling to have, especially on a television set, because it doesn't happen very often. Yeah. So it was a really great experience. And that was the only thing I booked last year, but it was, you know, but it was a great thing. And here's the thing. I've auditioned again, knock on wood. I've auditioned for like, I think I've had like 50 auditions this year. I haven't booked a damn thing. I haven't been on hold, haven't been on a bail, anything like that, which is frustrating. Yeah. But in my good moments, I remember, but you've had these auditions. Yeah. Like that's the good thing. People call you in, and it's not 50 different people. It's people that I've auditioned for before who want to see me again. Yeah. People want to get you work. Yeah. And you have to rest. I have to rest my hope on that. Yeah. And not just on when I book things. I'm not good at it. I'm not good at doing that. But in these moments when I'm talking to you, I can say, oh, yes. You could be reminded. Yeah, I can be reminded of the fact that I'm, you know, people call me in for stuff, and that's a good thing.
I'm quickly learning that that's like the key to longevity in this industry is building those relationships and really getting in with casting and building genuine relationships, not just a relationship where it's like, oh, hire me, where you're offering them your performance, you're offering a solution to the problem that they have.
That's hard to get in your head, though.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
I don't want to diminish how hard that is to get in your head.
No, yeah, it's very hard to get into your head. Well, even the idea of just when you do an audition, just like throw away the script or, just submit it and forget it. For the most part, I can do that. But then there's the auditions that come around where you really liked the character or you really like that TV show. And then even though you're supposed to stop thinking about it, you can't help it. And then 3 days go by and you don't hear anything. You're like, oh, okay, I guess I have to let this one go.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, the past 2 years have been really hard, particularly, but even since, for me, January 2017 is, from then on, it's just been like constant worry, constant anxiety, constant upset. And I feel like this period of time is happening for a reason, and I don't know what it is yet. Because, I lost my mom last year. I know I've had a couple more friends who've lost their parents. Yeah. Just in this past 2 years, there's been a lot of loss. A lot of loss of freedom to go wherever you want, loss of life, loss of confidence, loss of hope, certainly a damaged hope, you know, just dealing with the world issues. And I honestly think that this is going to lead, I have to believe this is going to lead to something better. When I was going through coming out, it was like the worst. It was awful. Yeah. It was awful. It was 2 years of awful. Yeah. But out of that, I ended up getting invited to join a dance company. Out of that dance company, I auditioned for West Side Story, a local production of West Side Story, which I'd always wanted to be in West Side Story, and I always wanted to play Bernardo. And I got it. And
that's
I got
awesome.
to play Bernardo. And then this whole thing happened with, moving to Chicago. Like, out of that suffering and drama came this moment of like, I'm just going to do something I always wanted to do. So I went and took a dance class, and then I took the dance class again. And then the third time I took the dance class, the people were like, hey, do you want to apprentice with our dance company?
That's awesome.
Okay. Yeah. So I don't know when that's going to happen, obviously, but I do think that there's something great has to happen out of all this shit.
I hope so, because it has been hard.
I am. Yeah, it's been terrible.
Well, it's interesting that you say that, because with the pandemic, and I would say in the last 2 years or so, I feel like I've been finally finding my stride, and like everything seems like it's going to hell around me, but I feel like my stuff is kind of going okay. And so it makes me think like, well, maybe there is a light at the end of the tunnel, like just starting this podcast. And I did like the web series last year that was really fun, My Tips with Teresa, and I'm bringing that back to do more episodes of that. And I personally have felt like a little lost for a while now in terms of where I'm supposed to be, what I'm supposed to be doing. And now I feel like I'm actually listening to that creative mind and trusting my creative instincts and putting myself out there. Whereas before I was too insecure and too nervous about looking stupid or whatever. And now I'm taking the risk and doing it. So I feel like, well, maybe there's more people out there that are going to start taking risks. Maybe it's not creative stuff. Maybe it's with making a difference in the world in a different way.
Yeah.
But even this podcast, I hope makes a difference, because for me, it's about connecting people with their stories and feeling less alone in their experiences of whether it's this career or maybe it's a different industry and you're kind of a little lost and you want to try something new, but you're a middle-aged person and society tells you like, oh, you get ready for retirement, but you want to change careers suddenly. I just hope that can help bring people. a little bit of light in their day and a little bit of joy.
Well, one of the things that I have to say about that is that very often we put off taking chances because we think I'm going to ruin my life.
Yeah.
And this is going to sound sarcastic, but I mean this wholeheartedly.
Okay.
Based on the last 6 years, life is going to ruin your life. So you might as well do what you want.
Yeah.
Because the economy will crash. There'll be an epidemic. There'll be, someone who wants to be a dictator and doesn't want to accept the voting, how the votes went. All this stuff had nothing to do with whether or not you did your show, whether or not you quit your job, whether or not you did anything. All those things happened anyway.
Yeah.
You know how many people in 2008, when the economy crashed, when we had the Great Recession, lost their jobs and their savings?
Yeah.
That they had been working for decades.
Yeah.
Because that was what they thought they were supposed to do.
Yeah.
And it was all ruined for them, right? So for me, it's like if my life's going to be ruined, I'm going to ruin it myself. I'm going to ruin my life. I'm not going to let you ruin my life, like just flippantly.
Yeah.
I will take the chances in my life, and if it gets ruined, it's going to get ruined because I chose to have it ruined.
I think that's a good way to...
Because I took the chance to have it ruined, Because I think we just get caught up in like everything's going to be copacetic because we live in the United States, and that's obviously not true anymore.
Yeah. No, I think that's a really good point.
And it's the people that take those chances that are going to make the difference.
Yeah, yeah. I think for me, I'm going to turn 43 in August, and I feel like I'm getting too old to not take chances, so might as well do it now.
Yeah.
Might as well.
Yeah. I don't know about you, but age fucks me in my brain so hard.
Yeah.
I don't know how to deal with it.
Yeah.
I just turned 57.
Nice.
3 weeks ago.
Oh, wow.
57. I cannot comprehend it.
No.
Like, it really boggles my mind.
Yeah.
But that's the thing about it is I already did the 9 to 5.
Yeah.
I did that when everybody else was taking chances.
Yeah. Me too.
You know what I mean? When you were 18, 19 years old and you were like, I'm going to go to New York and become a punk rock person, whatever.
Yeah.
Like I was working at the IRS going to college and then after college and just coasting and thinking, oh, well, this is okay. This works. It's not like I didn't have any fun. I had a great time. I had friends and I went dancing like constantly because I love to dance. But, so this is my time. My time started later and I made a commitment that I was going to see it through. So there's a very good chance I could end up homeless and destitute. That's definitely a good chance.
Yeah.
There's a chance that I could end up, winning an Oscar.
Yeah.
Who knows?
Yeah.
More than likely, it's going to be somewhere in between those extremes.
Yeah.
But the possibilities are endless, and it depends on where you put your energy into it. I think that I struggle with thinking that what I have to say or what I want to do could ever make a difference in any grand scheme. Like I've had this one-man show rolling around in my head for, I don't know, 3, 4, 5 years. I can't even remember. And I all I do is keep rolling around in my head because I don't want it to fail.
Yeah.
But that's the thing. It's like, that is the energy I have to overcome. I have to be willing to be like, no, if it fails, it fails. Let's do it anyway.
Yeah. Yeah.
But it's hard to do that when you think it's going to have an effect on your career long term, as opposed to thinking about it like, I'm just doing a one-man show. Who cares? It's like, well, no, but what if someone else sees it and they don't like it? What if it sucks? And,
Yeah. I want to ask you, what do you look forward to in your career as you continue to age? Or do you have anything that you look forward to?
I'm in a real place now of trying to discover more and more about myself and trying to get to a place of self-acceptance. Yeah. And really sort of, I talked earlier about, feeling like my father and, even my mother to a certain extent didn't really understand what I was. Yeah. Or what to do with me. and I want to fix that for me.
Mhm.
You know,
Yeah.
I want to know what I am and what to do with me.
Yeah, that's
know?
really beautiful.
And I want to be better at that.
Yeah, that's great. That's beautiful. And then I'm going to wrap things up because we've been going for a little while now. But I wanted to know if you have any advice for someone who is just starting out or is maybe transitioning into this industry.
Yes, whether it's useful or not is up to them. I am first of all, if you're young, go do things. Go do things that make you uncomfortable.
Yeah.
Don't get comfortable. Don't be on TikTok and just be on TikTok all the goddamn time. Like, go do something. Go really do something. Go, you know, it doesn't have to, if you want to be an artist, if you want to be whatever it is, then go do it find people to do it with that you have fun with. Because it's through the fun that you're going to come up with whatever is going to make you great. You know what I mean? Yeah. Don't sit there and think, what can I write that's going to make me great? What can I write that's going to make me great? Go find people to play with. Yeah. And you'll find something naturally that will just fly. Yeah.
And having experiences.
Everything I've done in my life is because of friends. Yeah. It's like friends and relationships.
Yeah. Yeah. And having life experiences make you more interesting and give you ideas.
I would also say, look backward. Like, you know, I'm from an age where we didn't have 500 channels and 500 streaming things and 500 apps and all that stuff. So what was on TV, you watched.
Yeah.
You know, when I was a kid, you had like 4 choices. You had PBS, CBS, ABC, and NBC. That was it. Maybe a local channel. What I always value about my childhood is that I got to see old movies. I got to see Fred Astaire and Ginger Rogers movies. I got to see, you know, Katharine Hepburn. I got to see that then informed the way that I became an artist. You know, so go back, look at, get inspired by what came before. Don't poo-poo it.
Yeah, I think that's good advice. And then one more question: what does success mean to you? Like, what would success look like to you? Because I know you've already poo-pooed the success that you have. So what would success look like to you?
Oh, God. I don't know. I really don't know I don't know how to answer that. I really don't. Because I think that I'm still caught up in the old story, which is awards, money, a big house, you know, all that stuff. Yeah. And I just know that that's not the truth. But I will say this, I would love to, I would love an experience like I had at Second City, as far as getting to be creative and being in front of an audience for 5.5 years, you know, that I get to entertain people and people enjoy it and I can make a living.
That sounds great.
I'm not going to starve.
Yeah, that sounds good. Yeah. Live a livable wage. Yeah,
and I'll have to do it until I die.
Awesome. So where can our audience follow you and keep up with your many bookings that are just around the corner?
Oh, thank you. Thank you. Well, my Instagram is Martin Garcia LA, or at Martin Garcia LA. Twitter, I'm not on very much. Okay. But if you want to hit me up there, it's at Margar Actar. MargarActar.
Nice. Okay.
I was feeling giddy when I came up with
that. Yeah, that's a good one. Yeah. This has been so awesome. Thank you so much for taking the time to talk with me.
Thank you for having me, Lisa.
Yeah, I really enjoyed our conversation.
I did too.
Yeah.
It's good to see you.
It's good to see you too. Well, thank you again, Martin.
Thank you all for listening to this week's episode. You can follow Martin on Instagram at Martin Garcia LA or on Twitter at Margar Actor. You should also check out some of his shorts, which are very funny. I've linked them in the show notes via his website. Please rate, review, and subscribe to the show wherever you listen. You guys, I can't stress how important that is to me. If you do one thing today, if you want to support the show, that is the best way to do so. So just take a few minutes and, give us a nice rating if you like the show.
Be sure to follow us on Instagram at Making It After 40, the number 40. Finally, if you want to see what I'm up to besides podcasting, check out my Instagram at Lisa Rodriguez. Thanks for listening, and we'll see you next week.